The New York Mets just pulled off a major heist. Add Ryan Helsley to the ever-growing list of David Stearns acquisitions, making this bullpen unstoppable. Fans love it too because we didn't give up too much, especially when you compare it to the Tyler Rogers deal that they made earlier in the day. That's exactly what we're going to go over today on Mets Digest. I'm your host today, Mike Duda. We're going to talk Ryan Helsley. We'll talk this deal. We'll compare it to Tyler Rogers. I'll give you my 2 cents and more. But first, we got to talk about some subscribers, and that being the fact that 69.9% of you that watch these videos aren't one. So please do me a favor, do us a favor here at Mets Digest, and hit that free subscribe button. That way we can bring content to you about the amazing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. And similarly to that Tyler Rogers video that I made earlier about my reaction, go ahead and check out Adam's video about the original Ryan Helsley deal. He dropped that video when the deal dropped, and it is titled Breaking the Mets Robbed the Cardinals. And he is right, I think. They didn't rob them per se, but honestly, it was a pretty good deal for the New York Mets. They got a great return package and didn't give up too much, especially when you compare it to Tyler Rogers. So let's go ahead and dive right into that as I give you my 2 cents. Here is the package. We got Ryan Helsley from the Cardinals. Plenty of details coming on him in just a couple of seconds. As for what we gave up, it is infielder, mainly a shortstop, Jesus Bayz, the former Met 8th prospect, according to MLB Pipeline, now going to St. Louis and the 6th prospect over there. Right-handed pitcher Nate Dome, who was formerly New York's 14th and now the Cardis' 15th, and another right-handed pitcher, Frank Elisott, who was not ranked for the Mets in MLB Pipeline's top 30 and is not ranked in the Cardinals' top 30 as well upon arriving in St. Louis. So those are the pieces. Let's dive right in. Who did the Mets get? Honestly, they got a stud. 6'2", 235-pound righty who is 31 years of age and just turned 31 on the 18th of July. So he is truly 31. He's a young 31-year-old. And here are his stats on your screen now. 3-1 this year with a 3 flat ERA in 36 games, 36 innings, 21 saves. He does have 5 blown saves. But like we've mentioned in the rumor videos, I did make a video about when Helsley was rumored to come to the Mets, and obviously Stearns pulled the trigger, which is awesome. 3 of those saves, those blown saves, came in consecutive outings from June 5th to June 9th. The ERA spiked from 3 flat to 3.75, but he's only given up 2 earned runs over 12 innings pitched since, lowering that ERA back down to 3. Whip below 1.4, which is actually worse than his career numbers, both the ERA and whip. 41 Ks as well. So a very solid season from Helsley and a great career. He has established himself as a really, really solid pitcher, and his contract is also very favorable. 1 year, $8.2 million signed at the beginning of this year with the Cardinals to avoid arbitration. Mets take on a little less than $2.65 million of it, and of course he is a free agent in 2026. So like Rogers, if the Mets do not re-sign Helsley, you got a rental. You got a 2-month rental, and however long the Mets make it in the playoffs, however long they last, which of course, like Rogers, if they go ahead and win the World Series and Helsley is a big part of that, you did your job. Even if he doesn't re-sign, it doesn't matter. You traded away some pieces to go get that trophy, to get the Commissioner's Trophy and bring it back to Flushing for the first time since 1986. So that's exactly what Stearns did. I'm really, really happy with it. I'm proud of him. He did his job. He went out, he got big fish. He was a guy in 2024 who did not make a lot of splash moves, but he made 2 splash moves yesterday on Wednesday, both of which I'm very, very happy with. And again, like I said in my Rogers video coming later today after the 6 p.m. trade deadline. I'm going to recap exactly what happened. So far, it is 3 deals that the Mets have made: Helsley, Rogers, and Gregory Soto. But again, that is to come later. Let's take a look at his career numbers, and really, really solid as well. He won the Trevor Hoffman National League Reliever of the Year award last year in 2024 with a league-leading 49 saves. He also finished a league-leading 62 games, so very, very solid. Also an All-Star in 2022. Both years he was in the Cy Young race, and last year he was top 10 in the National League's Cy Young. Very, very solid overall. Playoffs, he has some experience as well. 2019, 2020, and 2022, 8 games pitched, 8 innings, and a high ERA at 5.63, but a low whip at 0.75. He just hasn't done a good job in the playoffs of avoiding the earned runs. The hits that he's been giving up were big hits, doubles, triples, homers, but he does have an 18 strikeout per 9, And those numbers are a little bit inflated because he had one inning pitch in his 2022 playoff stint, and he was really, really bad. Gave up 3 earned runs in that one inning, bunch of hits, a lot of walks as well. So all those numbers are a little bit inflated because of the 2022 playoffs. But it's good to know that 2 of the moves that the Mets have made in Rogers and Helsley, they have playoff experience. That is really, really big for a Met team that is nearly guaranteed to make the playoffs. They're a very, very talented roster. It is one of the biggest underwhelming stories if the Mets do not make the playoffs. So when you have that kind of a roster, you need to build with guys who are not only going to help you get there, because obviously you got to get to the playoffs first, but guys that are going to help you in the playoffs and that have that playoff experience behind them. Let's turn it over to the advanced metrics for Ryan Helsley. He throws hard, very similar to Edwin Diaz. He also is a closer. 99.3 is his average fastball velocity, gets a good chase, a lot of whiff, pretty high strikeout, avoids the barrel at a decent rate, solid ground ball rate, 46.5% of the time, a lot of break on his off-speed pitch, that's really, really good. It's got a lot of run to it. His average exit velocity is also really low. It's not good. It's good. He avoids hard contact in terms of fast exit velocity. That you can see from the average exit velocity being in the 6th percentile and also the hard hit being in the 15th. Gets a solid extension. That's just more in his windup. Struggles with the walks, which we see in the career numbers. He does struggle. He's a closer. Most closers do struggle with the walks because they strike out a lot of batters, but overall, very solid advanced metrics. Here's his arsenal. It's a lot bigger than a Tyler Rogers and even an Edwin Diaz, who is a fellow closer. Obviously, Helsley's not going to be the closer anymore. He's going to take that 8th inning setup man role with Diaz as the closer. But a slider, 4-seamer, curve, and cutter. Barely goes to the curve and cutter as well, so it's very similar to Edwin Diaz. Throws a fastball, throws a slider. He does have other pitches that he can turn to, but he likely is not going to turn to them very, very often. So you're basically going to see a similar arsenal to Edwin Diaz. So that's the outlook on Ryan Helsley. Very, very solid piece. Super happy the Mets got him. You pair him with Tyler Rogers, and this bullpen went from about here, and then with Soto as well, all the way up here. They got much better in really the one facet of this team that has struggled immensely. Another starter couldn't hurt maybe before the 6 p.m. trade deadline today. I think they're honestly fine on the offensive end. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Even if they get another bat, I mean, that would be awesome, but I think they'd be okay without one. I think if I want anything, it would be a starting pitcher, but I don't want to give up too much, and the starting pitcher market right now requires a lot in return, as we'll see with Helsley. I say that the Mets honestly got a great deal from the Cardinals. They might have even robbed the Cardinals. It might have even been a heist, to be completely honest with you, because they didn't give up a ton, given how high the market is for relievers. The Mets really gave up less for Ryan Helsley than they did for Tyler Rogers, which is interesting because Helsley has the bigger name to him because he's a closer. So with that, let's look at who the Mets actually gave up, starting off with Jesus Bayz, a 20-year-old prospect, 5'10", 180, double righty. He was signed as an international free agent on January 15th of 2022. ETA to come up is in 27. Hitting is a 50. Big power bat at 60. Running 40. Arm 60. Similar numbers to a Ronnie Mauricio when he was a prospect. Fielding 50. Overall 50. Let's turn it over to MLB.com to take a look at the insights and an outlook on him. Bayz was far from the Mets' biggest international addition in January 2022 when he signed for $275,000, but he's quickly become one of the most notable prospects of anyone in that class. The right-handed slugger was named New York's Dominican Summer League Player of the Year that first summer when he finished with a 744 OPS and 7 homers across 54 games. His big statewide breakout came last year in 2024 when he opened with a 262, 338, 444 line and 10 homers in 64 games with single-A Port St. Lucie that prompted a late June promotion to high-A Brooklyn. But Bayz lasted only 8 games with the Cyclones before suffering a torn meniscus in his right knee that required season-ending surgery. He returned to the South Atlantic League for 2024 before being dealt to the Cardinals in the Ryan Helsley deal at the trade deadline that, of course, occurred yesterday. Bayz's power blossomed in 2024 as he managed a 104.6 mile an hour 90th percentile exit velocity, among the Florida State's league's best at just 19 years old. It's stout strength from his 5'10" frame, and it helps that he can pull and lift the ball with authority. He'll shorten his movements with 2 strikes, going from an open stance and leg kick to a more stationary load, and doesn't whiff much against any pitch type. That's really, really good. The Cardinals are getting a very good prospect. He does his job with 2 strikes to avoid the strikeouts. He does chase a good amount, however, and more polished pitchers will be able to take advantage if he can't reel in that approach. Basically, they're just going to throw the kitchen sink at him. They're going to throw a lot of off speed at him, and he's likely going to chase. To wrap it up, the infielder will clock occasional solid home to first times, but he isn't expected to be much of a runner as his body matures. Baez got looks at shortstop, third base, and second base. The trade, but remains likely to slide to the hot corner long term, where his hands and arm strength are solid fits. Again, similar to Ronnie Mauricio. He gives the Cardinals another dynamic infield talent alongside J.J. Weatherholt and Yariel Padilla. So, that is the deal on Bayz. Overall, yes, good prospect. Don't get me wrong. It is, I guess, a little upsetting that you get rid of such a good prospect, but where would he play? This is why I don't mind giving up infield prospects really at all, particularly at this deadline. Where is he going to end up playing? You have right now, at the time that I'm filming this, again, it might change because, and I hope they don't, they might do Mark Vientos for Luis Robert. I hope not, but we'll see. You got Mark Vientos, Brett Baty, Ronnie Mauricio, Luis Angel Acuna, Francisco Lindor, you got Jeff McNeil in the mix, Pete Alonso if you sign him to an extension. We have so many infielders right now. Where are these guys going to play? Your number one prospect right now in the Mets system is Jet Williams, and you need to make Jet Williams a center fielder. That's what they're doing down in the minor leagues because there's no room for him in his natural position as an infielder. So there's no room for infield prospects. That's why I don't mind giving up prospects. Yeah, we gave up the 8th prospect in our system. Okay, I don't really mind it because he is an infielder and we have such a plethora of infielders. It's hard to find a spot for him. As let's turn it over to the right-hand pitcher that we gave up. And this is, of course, Dome, who is the 14th prospect from the Mets system. St. Louis is 15, Nate Dome. 22 years of age, 6'4", 210, double righty. He was a third-round selection last year with an ETA also of 2027. Fastball at 55, curveball 50, slider 55, changeup 40. Control is good at a 55 for an overall 45 prospect. So let's turn it back to the experts. What are they saying? Dome pitched in relief at Ball State as a freshman in 2022 and transferred to the Mississippi State bullpen a year later. He finally got a chance to start with the Bulldogs as a junior and started fast with a 1.50 ERA and 32-4 strikeout to walk ratio through his first 4 starts. But a forearm strain slowed him for much of the spring, and he mostly made short appearances when he fully returned in late May. He helped his case with 2 dominant innings against Texas A&M in the SEC tournament, participated in the MLB Draft Combine, and went to the Mets in the 3rd round before signing for below slot at $797,000 and $500. After Dome posted solid numbers at Single A and High A to begin his first full season, New York traded him to St. Louis in a big move for closer Ryan Helsley at the deadline that of course occurred yesterday and that this video is all about. The healthy version of Dome utilizes a 93 to 95 mile an hour fastball with impressive carry to blow past hitters up in the zone. He ran the heater up to 99 in shorter stints as a sophomore reliever, a sign of what's in the tank, and he relied heavily on the heater throughout his college career. His 82 to 85 mile an hour slider plays off the heater well, darting late glove side to get a healthy amount of whiffs. He mostly kept his upper 70s curveball in his pocket as a pro, but the offering gives him a vertical option too, because of course sliders run horizontally. His upper 80s changeup is often too firm and doesn't stand as a huge weapon against lefties, leading to splits concerns. But overall, he seems like a very solid bullpen prospect. Not as much as a starter, but Dome seems pretty good out of the pen. Dome was a tremendous strike thrower in his 2 years at Starksville, but because of the forearm issues, including more during his sophomore campaign, evaluators hadn't seen that control hold up over long stints as a starter. That's why it's a 55 in his control rating and not maybe a 60 plus. He quieted some of those concerns in the first half of the 2025 season before the trade. The lack of cambio could hurt him down the line, but there's still starter upside here given his ability to fill the zone. I think if the Cardinals were smart, they're going to use him as someone that's more of a bullpen arm rather than someone that's a starter. So with that, let's turn it over to the last prospect that the New York Mets gave up in LSAT, that being Frank LSAT, who is not ranked. Here are his minor league statistics: 4-5 with a slightly above 3 ERA in his career. Good batting average against at a 179, but he struggled more in high A, obviously, as compared to rookie ball. That is to be expected. You're going to give up more hits. You're going to be worse off against at a higher league, high A, compared to rookie ball. But overall, very, very solid numbers. Not ranked as a prospect, so there's not too much that the Mets necessarily gave up here. Elisad is a 6'2", 210 prospect, 23 years old, former 19th round selection of the Mets last year. So with that, let's turn it over to the Atlantic with grades on this trade. That, of course, since we talked a lot about everyone involved in the trade, here it is on your screen now in case you forgot. So, the Atlantic is giving the Mets a B, and the Cardinals a B. As for CBS Sports, they give both sides an A. So, that's all the grades for some reason that were available that I could find. So it looks like it was a pretty even trade according to the experts. I think, yeah, I would agree. The Cardinals got a solid return package, especially given the reliever market. But I think the Mets did a good job, given the reliever market, to not give up too much talent. As with that, we will turn it back. Here is the current bullpen that you saw in the Rogers video. Right now, Rico Garcia and Chris Davinsky are part of that bullpen. But other than that, you have established veteran presences, including Soto and Raley, Rogers, Helsley, and of course Diaz when you get to him in the ninth. As for the postseason, it gets even better because you're going to probably add Clay Holmes and Frankie Montas in the postseason. This is a lethal postseason bullpen that I think is going to be really helpful in propelling the Mets hopefully all the way. So go ahead, go down there in the comment section. Let me know, do you like the Ryan Helsley deal? I definitely think the Mets did a better job with Helsley compared to Rogers. They gave up basically the same amount for a guy who's better in Helsley statistically and has more value because he's a closer. But I don't mind either deal. I definitely think pairing the two deals is really good for David Stearns, especially when you add that to the Gregory Soto deal that occurred last week. So overall, Stearns has done a great job at the trade deadline. Again, if he pulls the trigger over the next 6.5 hours, Adam and I got you covered only here on Mets Digest, and we got you with more rumors, more updates, of course. Thank you so much as always for watching, but unfortunately, that's all the time I have for you in this Ryan Helsley update video and this reaction video. Thank you so much as always for watching, and let's go Mets.